whether or not it's actually being faced like this is subject to debate. If you've ever worked in retail, you know people mess up your displays really, really quickly. So if I pull this out and I was like, oh, that looks good, I flip it over to the back, I don't think I want it. Maybe I shove it back in the freezer case back side first. People need to know what it is. Maybe we're overstocked and I need to stack some this way. So if it gets stacked going this way in the case, I can still see here's the flavor, here's the brand, here's what the product looks like. Also on this side.
I used to do stocking. I was that guy.
You were that guy. Yeah, it happens. Like if you've ever stocked, people who stock retail, they're like, this makes a lot of sense to me. It's no matter how it's getting shelved, I can still see who the manufacturer is, I can still see the logo, I can still see what the product is, and maybe a little something about the product. It's not the exact same thing on all sides, because people are like, can I make it the same thing? Well, no, make it different on each side, but make sure you're still communicating. What is it? Who made it? So, some of the other requirements that you have to have is, you always have to have that declaration of quantity. How big is it? How much is it? For food, how many, in standard and metric. So even with shampoo, how many ounces of shampoo? How many grams of shampoo? Food, how many ounces of food? How many grams? If it is clothing, how many pieces of clothing are in there? Is it 2 socks or is it 1? Or is it 3? Some kids' socks, you actually get 3 of each pair because you always lose one of your kids' socks. They do that. So that piece count needs to be on there. I need to know how many. That's a requirement. The company's logo has to be on there. You don't get to do the no-name brand. You as a company obviously want to put your logo on there. So that has to be in the front. The declaration of measurements always on the bottom third. It has to be readable. So I believe it's like 16-point font or larger. Unless you're doing really tiny cosmetic things, then that's slightly different. The other things that have to be on there, you have to have ingredients on there. That's true for food, that's true for cosmetics. They have to list their ingredients.
You don't have to list percentage of sugar though. There's actually a UN resolution which they went through.
To get rid of sugar?
Yeah, it's in a movie called it doesn't list percentage. It might say in grams, but because it has to do with the sugar lobby is so strong, they got it written out so they don't lose.
Grams.
Yeah, so they want to lose business.
But your nutrition facts is on there for food, but ingredients is on there for anything that's got ingredients. Clothing is slightly different. Country of origin is generally on there, so if this is made in China, it has to say made in China. Your declaration of responsibility is a big one. You have to put on your company's address and phone number. You're responsible for every product you're putting out into the marketplace. Therefore, if somebody needs to get a hold of you, they can. So they've got their
website or something.
There it is, right there, right on the bottom. Natural Foods. There's their address that you can contact them at. They've got their website on there and their Facebook page. But you have to have your address. You're responsible for what you're putting in the marketplace. People need to know where it came from. A lot of times if it's coming from, this was manufactured in China, but it's getting sold here, or it's like an international thing, it'll say distributed by. You may have a manufactured by and distributed by. For food, you also have to have your expiration date. When is it best by? Barcodes. Everybody has a barcode. If you don't have a barcode, how are you going to scan it? So barcodes have to be on there as well. So that's all the legal compliance things you have to have on there. Oh, you also have to have your declaration of product. What is it? So if it's shampoo, it's going to say shampoo on there. Like even if it's, you've come up with a really cool name, somewhere it's got to say shampoo. Somewhere it's got to say conditioner. For food, somewhere you have to write what it is so that I know that, what is Kyoto Stir Fry? Well, it's made with organic tofu, carrots, edamames, and 5 superfoods. It's got all of that on there telling me what the heck it is. It says keep frozen. I've got those instructions. For some of the food you may want to have, if it's frozen, how do you cook it? Please tell me because I don't know. That's stuff that's going to go on the back. You know, directions. Even shampoo. You know how to use shampoo. They still have directions on the bottle. They still have directions, in case you were not aware. Clothing, wash instructions. How do you wash it? Does it need to be dry cleaned? Does it need to be washed? For clothing, everybody talk to Michael. He's the expert on the clothing.
We don't need this. We don't need it in English, right? We don't need it in like 10 languages.
No, you don't have to translate this. This is an English-only kind of project. This is not my packaging class where you have to translate everything.
Where do we get the barcodes from?
You can find them on the internet. There are free barcode generators too, but you can just look up a barcode.
Oh,
Yeah, it doesn't. When you're actually in a manufacturing situation, they give you the barcode numbers. Those get applied because they will have like their company code and then the product code. So those get assigned when the company develops the product, and usually you just if you as a designer actually have to generate the barcode. There's barcode generators. Some are paid, some are free. You generate the barcode based on the number you have. But you can just find them on the internet. There's plenty of barcodes just to stick on there. So it's just to get you, I mean, the reason I make it all compliant is the fact that packaging, there's a reason why they look the way they do, is because you're considering where it's getting bought, where it's getting sold, the information that needs to be on there, and also all the legal rules that you may have not really been aware of.
This FDA stuff, I guess?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's FDA, it's legal compliance.
Okay.
Anytime you actually generate a piece of packaging, it actually has to go through a legal compliance regulatory system. So a lawyer actually looks at it and signs off on it. We're not doing anything that has like sharp points warnings or
Cost
flammable
it.
warnings,
Explosives.
any of those caution things, but they may, that's a whole separate thing. But
so is that covered in packaging? I didn't take packaging design yet.
I cover it. I don't know about it. Like I do a whole everything. Some of these guys who've taken packaging will tell you that I make them all do compliance, legal compliance.
So it's made of polyester. Do you have to say it's flammable?
Yeah, if there's a flammable warning, like some of like the flame retardant clothes, like
Yeah.
it'll say on there that this is covered with a flame retardant chemical. If it's organic, they're advertising it's organic.
Right.
They're paid to be able to do that. You can't just write it. They actually have paid and been certified to write organic on there. So, good, makes sense. Any questions on that?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Everybody wait for Adam to post the video.
Yeah, and I have my cell phone charger cord in my car, so I go run out and do that. You guys are hurting bad here.
I know, I flew through it fast because I was like, oh, he's recording, I'll just go through it. Because it doesn't take that, it's just a couple keystrokes, and knowing some of those tools, you see how fast you can set up a die line. I just took this apart, I measured it with a ruler, I drew my little schematic, and then I can just follow that.
So we're only doing the box.
Mhm.
We were doing like a shampoo or whatever. We're doing the box, not the bottle.
You can do the bottle for the shampoo, you can do that label. Labels are easy, they're generally just a square. So you just have to, so if you've got a bottle, my suggestion is to just take a little, and you're like, well, how do I measure how around that bottle is? Just take a strip of paper, mark where you started, mark where it overlapped with a pen, lay it out flat on your ruler, now you know how big around that's got to be.
Or you can do like the front label back.
You can do a front label, back label, if you want one that goes all the way around. See my computer shut up. So that's my suggestion for round shapes. If it's a tapered shape, you need to figure out how much it's tapering. So again, I would take a piece of paper and wrap it and mark. Okay, well, how is this tapering on something that's tapered around? I don't recommend trying to label like a really squiggly bottle, because a lot of times those are actually plastic sleeves that are then heat shrunk to the bottle. And you're gonna have a real hard time mocking that up. Because they're printed, they're laid over, and then they're heat shrunk down so they stick to that bottle.
So, but we have to do this box.
You don't have to do the box. I'm just doing a lot of people are doing Olive Garden, so I picked food. But if you said, so it's really up to you. So if you're doing shampoos, You can just do shampoo bottles or a pomade, you know, the little tubs for like pomade, hair wax. That's up to you. If you said you wanted it to go in a box, you could, because some of those things do come in boxes. That's your decision as the designer. Do you want the Gap hair to come in a really cool box?
Yeah, like if you did the Gap salons, could you do like the window cut? Where you can see the product?
Yeah, you could do a die cut window out so you can see the bottle inside of it. This is your decision as the designer doing
Okay.
the branding.
Yeah, I had a outside the box idea for that.
Outside the box.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how he's go. Yeah.
If you want, say, I want to do a coconut hand cream for the Gap Salon. Can I cut a coconut in half and just like shave it and put the label on it?
There you
Sure.
go.
All right, thanks.
There you go.
All right. Yeah.
You gotta get.
For clothing, so the clothing, there's a lot of options. So if you were saying, I'm going to do that scarf, well, is there some type of belly band that's going to wrap in that holds it and a hang tag? Is it a hang tag that goes on the shirt? So something that's just attached to a sleeve on a shirt? Does it come in some other type of packaging? Does it come in a box that I can see through the window? Does it come in a plastic sleeve? Is there, a lot of times they'll take a band and wrap that around a shirt. Maybe it's on a little backing piece of cardboard and has a band around it. There's a lot of ways that clothing is packaged. So it depends on what article of clothing you're doing and how it's being wrapped up, packaged, sold. Like scarves, a lot of times they'll be rolled up, and I'm just, because you held up your scarf, I was like, yeah, you can do a scarf and just do a wrap around it to communicate that. Hang tags are another way. You could have something on the hanger itself, if you've ever seen that, a shirt on a hanger, and they've actually done something on the hanger. So there's a few ways you can do clothing. And clothing has, again, it's not going to have necessarily ingredients, because you don't know what's in your clothing.
For the fibers.
The fibers. Yeah, the fiber, you've got to list the fiber. So is it 100% organic wool? Is it, 40% polyester and 40%, I don't know, what else is it? Wool, spandex, rayon.
What's the stuff to make the winter jackets out of? Like what do they call it?
There's-
but DuPont,
Yeah,
DuPont fabrics, the synthetics,
Yeah, there's different.
Gore-Tex.
Okay, yeah,
Gore-Tex.
Gore-Tex. Whole Foods is probably going to be organic, things like organic cotton
Wool.
or hemp.
Hemp's-
Wool, any of those organic, but you're going to list that, what that's made of versus, you don't do nutrition facts, but you're going to list what is the clothing. You still have the brand name, you have to say what it is. 1 scarf, there's your piece count. 2 gloves, that's a piece count. Is it women's gloves, is it men's gloves, are they unisex gloves? That's what you're stating as far as declaration of product. Barcodes, you don't have to do Best By dates, they're good forever.
Twinkies last for how many years now?
I think only 2, of course.
Oh, it used to be like 7. Didn't it used to be like 7 before you pulled
I
this?
think it's 2 just because it creeps people out. Like, a lot of stuff doesn't actually expire. It's just they put those dates on there so people aren't freaked out that their food's still good for
10 years.
Yeah. Still good. Still tasty. Still fresh-alicious. Any other questions on packaging?
Okay. Thank you.